Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David To, the moderator for today. So I understand from the organizer that this workshop registration filled up quite quickly. So I suppose this is a topic that everyone is looking forward to and probably a bit apprehensive about the big ESG topic that we have today. With the new governance code coming out in January 2024, the purpose really of this panel is to basically share some insights into this area so that at the end of the day, you can bring home some useful tips and information as you embark, as you start, or for those who have started, as you continue this whole ESG initiative in your respective charity. But before we start, I'm mindful also that this is a session after lunch. We're going to start with a poll, so I can see some already using the handphone. Can I get everyone to just scan the code on the screen, and we can use that for the purpose of the poll. All right. So the first polling question is that, this is the wrong question. Okay, question number 1. How ready is your charity on the implementation of ESG practices? So we give everybody maybe 30 seconds. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for the photo ops. I guess we probably can stop now and present the results. Anyone needs more time? I think everyone's okay. All right. Can we show the results on screen? For polling question number 1. Okay, as you can see from the screen, question here is, how ready is your charity on the implementation of ESG practices? 30% says yes, you're ready. I think Chi Ming will be happy to see that. 16% says no, 38% says maybe, 70% not sure. Oh, sorry, the number have been dropping now. Lesser than 30. Okay, so essentially, I think there's still quite a fair bit of work to be done in that area. With this polling results, I probably fired the first question to Chi Ming. That's really the elephant in the room. Really, what's the thinking behind, from a charity council's perspective, when this new concept, this ESG concept, was included inside the new charity governance code? Maybe Chi Ming.
Can you guys hear me? Those at the back? Very good. So happy to see so many people here. And of course, I'm happy to be here. I don't know about elephants, but definitely the old dog is in the room sitting here. This is my second term in the Charity Council. In my previous life, head of financial services for the Big Four, head of real estate, one of those that started REITs in Singapore for you. And you know what? Way back to 2009, ESG, this term was actually very much on the fringe, because there were discussion about sustainability, carbon footprint, but ESG as a term, very much on the fringe. Not much people notice it, except certain entities would nominate one of the key employees to be in charge. And then the rest would go and do their own things, right? Because you got somebody in charge already. But explosion took place, and you have seen what Esther has shown in one of the slides. unless you are very much into ESG, certain bad things would happen. So Charity Council are very aware that previous code drafted, codified 2015, implemented 2017. This is our opportunity. So we roll out the 2023 code. We know that we, charities, cannot be alone by ourselves. We are part and parcel of the world. All sectors are interrelated. We can't deny that. So when we did the consultation process with you guys, we hear you. There were a lot of concern expressed. But bearing in mind that we are all interrelated, what do we need to do? Do we want to wait? Perhaps the right balance is to introduce the concept of ESG to charities now, so that when the time comes, when the requirements are more codified, then we will be more ready. So that's the real intention of having ESG in the code. Now, this is an opportunity for me to, on behalf of the council, to clarify certain things. Number one, we have definition of ESG in the appendices. The definition has been tailored for charities. Okay? But they are more or less in line with E would be your interaction with the environment, your impact of your activities. S obviously would be your interaction with the social. Here we shifted it to emphasize on your interaction with your stakeholders. And of course, G, governance. But you know what? You are already doing a lot of governance, right? So in fact, you are actually fulfilling part of what the concept of ESG wants. What I want to share with you is this. Because of the concern expressed, and because also that we have to introduce now rather than later on, we want to make sure that a couple of things happens. Number one, there's going to be templates issued. We are working with partners. Hopefully CDL will be one of them, to generate enough templates for you to make use of, particularly the smaller charities. And at this point, I want to see hands. How many of you are tier 2? Hands up. Fewer than tier 1, right? The rest tier 1 or no tier. You know, so we hear you. We hear your concern about charity council. You know, we are going to incur more costs. Charity council, we are already short of resources. Charity council, when we implement, then we have to do big, huge, long report, where to find the data. So we're hearing all these things. So we are working very hard, and templates will be rolled out. Number two, we are not requiring you to adopt a formal framework like what the listed companies would have to do, like what the big boys would have to do. Of course, some of the IPCs here, I was on the Esplanade board. Anybody from Esplanade here? No, because they're already knowing what to do. They have the resources, right? So we are not requiring you to adopt a framework. Having said that, we will be very happy if you start to look at it. Because when we talk about framework, don't get confused. There are two different types. One is framework for your organization. The other one is framework for reporting. So we are not making it compulsory for you to have a framework. Rather, we are recommending to you through the code that please start adopting ESG in your thinking when you go and carry out your activities, and make use of it to also report what you're doing to your stakeholders. I want to end by saying that doesn't mean, wow, we go away from here, man, after this, because Chiming said we don't need to adopt a framework. No, you have to do it. So I talked to Desmond's team. We have got a very good commissioner, very understanding, very practical. Like to think that your charity council people are so practical, but we need to push a bit lah. So I just want to say to you that one thing I personally find lacking in the appendices to the code, also during the rollout time some 6-7 months ago, would be the fact that maybe we haven't stressed enough to you some of the benefits that you actually get from adopting ESG. I'm so glad Esther has shared with you a lot of the benefits that property developers do get. Sometimes the benefit comes in the form of green loan is another area that is being developed right now, right? So I just want to take the opportunity to happily remind you that in encouraging you to start this journey, you probably would have greater opportunity of recruiting better people because the younger ones are all into ESG, as an example. Secondly, one of the things you need to do, Esther has already mentioned, you start off by analyzing your activities, how they affect carbon footprint, and so on. In that process, which you would need to do, you probably would have an opportunity to identify some of your operations which are not so efficient and make it more efficient. So that's the second thing. You actually are likely to find that you can make some of your activities more efficient. Third thing is, so difficult to raise funds right nowadays, particularly the smaller ones. Wow, the big boys are having all these dog and pony show about what they are doing, but we need to still raise funds. We have a mission to fulfill. Don't forget that if you adopt ESG, you actually open the door wider to obtaining funds because there are philanthropists out there, whether big or small, who would want to partner charities that have got the same mindset. And ESG mindset is definitely something very much on their mind. There's a survey done that 80% of the philanthropists actually are looking into ESG very closely. I stop here and leave you to think about that. But I've shared a lot of the inside thinking with you. And again, so happy to see you here. Hopefully you pose a lot more questions.
Thanks. Chiming. I guess just to summarize, I think Chiming has given some clarity in terms of what to expect going forward on the ESG front and what help is going to be made available as well. You're not walking alone, not just the Liverpool fans, but more thirdly, right? Thirdly as well is there are real tangible benefits as we embark on this whole ESG journey. And thanks to your comments, it's addressed some of the questions as well in the pigeonhole. Maybe the next question I would like to pose to Esther, given your experience, what are some of the changes that charity organizations have to make as they embark on this whole ESG initiatives? Some changes based on your experience from the profit or non-profit organizations in the past as they first embark on this journey.
Actually, I shared the last slide. I don't think it is, changes, but you need to do a stock take. For all you know, maybe you're already 80% very good. Yeah, but the world is changing. Good old day, ESG were always considered as unimportant, non-financial. But it's very different operation when you are in a listed company and versus non-profits. But we do have a lot of interface with non-profits as well, and like such as WWF or SEC and Global Compact Network Singapore. Everyone is different. Some are bigger, some are smaller, and we do work with some really small, like zero waste, and some of the younger NGO as well. So everyone is different. I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all for the change, but I think you need to look inward first. Identify your strength and weakness. It's like your annual medical check. If you don't know, which part of your body is needs some help and all that, you can't improve. So I wouldn't say it's change. It's just that you need to look at yourself. That stock is something that I would suggest. And then I think a framework. Just now you say a template. I thought it is really helpful. Even for listed companies, stock exchange also provides some help. Like the 27 indicators. That is what listed companies should look at. But for NGO, you can also start with a list of the, what are the items that you should look inward first. Your operation, your leadership commitment, your communication is very important. Because why sustainability reporting is so important? Because in the past, people don't really know how to articulate that, actually ESG is integrated into our business and create value for our operations and future-proof our business. So same thing that as a donor, I want to know that my money will go to an organization that is going to, be resilient and really can deliver the work. So that is what from the donors, perspective. And of course, good management is very important. So that's why, the last slide is really, you need to stock take first. Whether you only have 5 people, whether it's sufficient or not, your resources may not be sufficient. And ask your donors, your stakeholder, what they think about you. Then I think that will be easier, the first step to start, before you talk about change. Yeah.
Thank you, Esther. I think there's a question in the pigeonhole, and probably it's so similar to the question I'm going to pose to Raghu as well, is that, what are the potential challenges that organization will face, given that you've embarked on this journey? And what are some of the pragmatic areas that organizations can implement to get quick wins in the early days? Raghu?
Right. So our charity landscape is quite diverse. There are large charities with a lot of management power and big boards, and there are other small charities which are literally relying a lot on volunteers and carrying out their mission. So we have a very diverse landscape of charities in Singapore. So when we look at ESG, it actually is comprising 3 different elements. One is the environmental part of it. The other is social or stakeholder, as Chi Meng pointed out. And third one is governance. Historically, the focus of the Commissioner of Charities and MCCY has been on good governance in the charity sector. So if you all know, I can speak from experience, we all complete the governance evaluation checklist every year. And that is how we discharge our governance responsibilities. The board really is responsible to complete it. And once it is completed, we file it with the Commissioner of Charities every year. So I would say from a governance standpoint, most charities are familiar with what needs to happen. But now I think with the climate crisis coming along, the scope of governance really needs to expand a bit. And what I mean is that, the climate crisis affects everyone, including people in Singapore, whether or not we are the cause of some of the issues that result in this challenge, right? It is going to affect us, and it will affect all of us differently. For example, in Singapore, we can expect that we need to be a little bit more responsible in how we behave and act, so that we are conscious about the need to conserve resources so that there is enough left for future generations that come to inhabit this planet. In other countries, the challenge might be very severe because the climate crisis may cause droughts, famines, and other hardship, which we may not experience in Singapore. But it is important that people in Singapore are aware of it. And I think that is the entire focus of Singapore's Green Plan when it was launched in 2021. It was to make the Singapore society and the population sensitive about the importance of this issue and that we need to be ready to deal with it. Our readiness, is dependent upon not only the actions that the government takes, for example, to prevent sea levels from rising, but also on the willingness with which Singaporeans adopt some of the sustainable practices, like reducing the use of fossil fuels, for example, optimizing water usage, or taking public transport to work instead of driving cars. Things like these. These are issues that are going to affect us also. So the fact that the Commissioner of Charities wants charities to think about environmental issues is simply to create consciousness amongst our society that climate change is real. It is not going to go away. We all need to act responsibilities, and charities is not a sector that is exempt from acting responsibly. So as we carry out our work, and that is where the governance scope gets expanded, the board of directors and management really need to start thinking about environmental issues also when they do the work. For example, you can look at it in both in terms of opportunities as well as risks. First, let's cover the risks because that's what most people are worried about. The risks are like, for example, what is my energy consumption like in my charity? Most charities will not have a big energy bill, but there could be particular charities which are operating large facilities which may involve a huge amount of energy consumption. So it gives them an opportunity to think through, how am I consuming energy? Where is it going? Is it being optimally used? Is there an opportunity for me to reduce my energy consumption? So that is one example of how charities can think about environmental as part of their running the operations of the charity. Similarly, water usage. Some charities may be using a lot of water, and then there is an opportunity for them to think about, how do I reduce my water consumption? Or they may be generating a lot of plastic waste. So again, an opportunity to think about, how do I reduce the pollution footprint that the charities have? How do I, make sensible use of plastics? How do I try to recycle all my waste material? And how do I move to a more circular economy so that I don't end up consuming resources which are going to get more and more scarce as time goes by? So this is one way of how both charity boards as well as charity management can start thinking about risks emanating from climate change, and then thinking about what are the steps they can take which will help them move forward on a much more sustainable basis and also help them save money. So this is one dimension of the risk. On the opportunity side, again, there is a huge opportunity aspect of this thing. We are fortunate that in Singapore, the government has already prompted all of us to start thinking about sustainability issues. And that is the beauty of being in Singapore, where the government does a lot of the planning for you. What we need to do is study the impact of environmental challenges on our stakeholders. For example, many of us have a social mission. For us in WWF, our purpose is the environment, so we focus a lot on sustainability. But for many other charities out there, they're doing something to improve the livelihoods of people in Singapore or to help the underprivileged in Singapore society do better. So what you could think about is, if there is large scale environmental change going to happen around the world, and if it affects Singapore, how is it likely to impact your stakeholders or the people whom you service or support? What are the issues that they are likely to face? And therefore, what are the changes that you may need to make to your services that would allow you to be of use to them in the future as well? And this is where it gives rise to innovative ideas of how you could think about supporting your stakeholders in a manner that would be helpful for them when the climate change issues start impacting all of us, right? So these are where the opportunities are, and this can give rise to a whole scheme of new programs, new initiatives, and new sources of funding that you previously could not tap into. So I would say this is how you can look at the opportunities and the risks and move about it in a systematic manner.
Thanks, Raghu. Very comprehensive. Maybe the next few questions, I'll just combine a few questions in the pigeonhole, and probably Chiming can help out on that. First question, since you mentioned about help's coming, there are a couple of questions from the audience. Is there any tentative timeline in terms of rolling out some of this checklist to help support this kickstart of the ESG initiative? Question number one. Question number two, will there also, given that ESG comes with a certain investment cost, will there be guideline again in terms of percentage of operating expenditure that will be spent in terms of this whole ESG agenda? Jimmy.
Can you hear me? Okay. Maybe I divert a bit and finish off what we hope to achieve, because we are all not of similar size. And as I said, the Charity Council recognizes your difficulties. Then I will answer very directly what I've been asked. What I was going to say is that whether you have template or not, when you embark on an ESG journey, it's very important you don't end up fighting the battle alone. So if it's me, whether big or small, I'll make sure that the bosses, board of directors, they get trained, at least at a session, to understand better so that they can buy in. Because you cannot fight the battle alone. Very important. At the same time, you need to analyze all your activities that has a carbon footprint. In fact, you won't actually be 100% certain. So you have to perhaps analyze all your activities. So these are the basic things which you perhaps might want to do even without a template. Then, if you think about it, when you implement something like this, you always have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, right? The consultants would say. So you need to have a discussion and an understanding of what you want to achieve within what time frame. And you already know that Charity Council doesn't require you to adopt a framework for reporting, because that actually can be quite tedious. But that doesn't mean that Charity Council can guarantee that this requirement will not come in future. I suspect it will come in future. Because even the listed companies in adopting global reporting initiative standards, even though they are given 2022 to adopt or explain why they don't, 2023, certain sectors have to do it, 2024, largely more sectors have to do it, one of which would be property developers, of course. So we have to expect that at a point in time, there would be a rollout of framework. This is my personal view. We have not discussed this at the Charity Council yet. So my personal view is that you don't wait for the bullet to come lah. You have to start. And you bear in mind that there would be benefits accruing out of analyzing your activities anyway. So I just stop there, but it's very important. Get the buy-in, understanding buy-in, analyze your activities. You do that with or without the template, because we can guarantee you, at least the 4 of us here, that you have to analyze your activities for the impact. So templates, I stand up a bit because I got a pinched nerve and sitting down is very painful. Okay, I can sit down again. So the templates we are going to roll out ASAP, but there could be a slight delay initially, but definitely within the first half or first quarter of 2024. Why? Because we are not in an environment where we say you must have a framework, right? We are in an environment where we are so happy for you to start the journey. So you start the journey. You have to understand also the difference between sustainability and ESG. I won't test the panel speakers here. When you can understand the difference between sustainability and ESG, hey, battle one won. Then you get your board to go for your, what is ESG all about lah. But here I'm saying to you, we are working with many partners. Templates might not be 100% suitable for everybody. So we need to segregate. I think my own view is that we need tier 1, tier 2, and I think probably the lower tier 1 and mid tier 2 would need more help. I also like to encourage charities to have a peer support mentoring system. It's my greatest desire to pair the smaller charities with the bigger ones so that you can learn of them, lean off their resources. But that's another story altogether. So akan datang, it's going to be rolled out. We are working with many partners. The worst that can happen, my personal view, is we give you a template that's so long, which is suitable for CDL, then you get so scared. So we are also mindful of that. So you please note what I said just now. We don't require you to have a framework. That doesn't mean you don't have a framework. You have a easier one, so that you can learn along the way. But I can't see how you can start your journey without analyzing your activities and getting the buy-in. That's important, Esther, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I took some time to emphasize on that, and I just want to stop here.
Thanks, Jimmy. So again, there's a question from the audience. So I just open it up to the panel. Do you see any opportunity between the collaboration between charities and corporations, right? In the area of ESG to basically get them kickstart or even get them upskilled in their ESG initiatives, right? So do you foresee any of such
Actually, there's a lot
collaborations?
have already happened. A lot of collaborations, but we really need to do, because I think you also have to find your right partner. Not every organization can be your good partner. I give you some of the examples that we have actually worked with SEAS, Sustainable Energy Associations, since 2017. So we built this academy together. Just now I mentioned the Sustainability Academy. We gave them free space for the office and also a classroom to run their program. And they have very established board and very strong management and very strong, I think, with government support also, with NEA as their champion agency. And I think an organization like that is not hard to find corporate to support them, because it's also governance issue. Don't just look at the big company as like, oh, they have deep pocket, you can do anything. It's not, because we are also employee. We also don't want to put our, at risk, put our investment at risk, or partners at, find the wrong partner. So we also do very robust check on the background, on the track record of any organization who come to us that wants to partner with us. And in fact, we are expanding the academy. And then, very soon you will hear that we are also partnering another NGO, give them the workstation and, and also, training ground. So network is what we have. Also, resources is what we have, and mentorship and all that. But I would say that if the smaller NGO, you don't really need to go into a very robust type of ESG, ranking, ratings, and practices and all. But governance, risk management is fundamental of everything we do anyway, whether you are big boys or not NGO. So when you talk about sustainability, of course, we are talking about environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and financial sustainability, which is actually quite interchangeably used with environment, social, and governance. So don't, you are not going to write a thesis. Like I said, stock take, look at what really matters to you, right? You are not running a big, data center. So your environmental footprint is not that high. So it's not that difficult. Look at your bills, because just I saw a question on the carbon tax. It's not going to impact, smaller or medium-sized NGO that big, because they are hitting the big industry, the oil, the petrol, and then the industry. But it will affect grid price. The grid price is likely to go up. So how do you, embark on energy efficiency, savings and all, is something that you need to look at, but don't need to bother yourself with something that is totally not your league. Yeah, you know what I mean? Everybody must look at what you really, that's why I said stock take is important. When you have an organization of 100 people, is different from with 5 people or 10 people. Yeah, just simple thing is like go paperless is something that we also went through 10 years ago. So it's not that difficult, but I think one thing you have to be very careful is when you go paperless, digital, cyber security is a huge thing. You guys are very kind-hearted, but there are people out there, sometimes you get very angry. It's like, why they spam the retirees, take their money and saving away. But there are criminal like that. So I think for charity, we have to be very careful. How do you have a very robust governance? Not to be used, your name be used to scam, the innocent people, especially the old folks. You get very angry when you see those, but there are such things happen, right?
Raghu?
Hello. Yeah. So, like you said, what is the opportunity to collaborate? And I think getting corporate partners has been a quite established tradition in the NGO space. A lot of charities have corporate sponsors and who are keen to work with them to fulfill the charitable mission. But I think this new environmental challenge actually gives rise to a new opportunity, which is for charities to collaborate with each other and really make more wholesome the programs that they're already delivering to their stakeholders. So there is an opportunity to introduce environmental aspects into meaningful programs that touch different sections of society. For example, underprivileged children or seniors or whoever they might be. There's an opportunity to bring them out into the environment, and therefore you can look at your programs in a new light and thereby be able to tap into new sources of funding that would support such activities. So I think this is again an opportunity that you will need to assess at your own charity level. You can look at the whole range of partners and collaborative people whom you can collaborate with, whether it be corporates or other charities, and then come up with meaningful programs that really fulfill an unserviced need or unmet need right now.
Thanks, Raghu. There are a couple of questions in the pigeonhole that I think is a bit technical. For example, like carbon calculator, carbon footprint calculator, and things like Scope 3. I'll probably not address this as part of this panel, if you don't mind. And these are the details that eventually, once you get onto this journey, so you can always get help from any of us on the panel, or your consultants or your board, which are also quite well versed in this area as well. We have about 5 minutes to go. Probably we want to just close off this panel with maybe a thought or encouragement from each of our panel member. I'll probably start with Raghu.
Hello. Yeah. So the governance ESG requirements that the Commissioner of Charities has included in the code of governance, the new code of governance, is actually quite light. I would say it is not something that should frighten most charities, and I think it's a great move to introduce the issue in a soft manner. It gives the opportunity to all charities to do a quick assessment of where they stand in respect of the various issues, and then learn how to report on them, because it is going to be increasingly relevant to all the consumers of financial statements as well as annual reports. Especially the new generation, they're really concerned about the environment. So you don't want to miss out on that audience. So therefore, it would be wise to start making a move in terms of thinking about ESG, and then having a very clear statement of your charity's position vis-a-vis these issues that matter to your audience. So I think the audience profile will change over time, and therefore the charity sector also needs to move along. And therefore, it is important that we all start thinking about it.
Thanks, Raghu. Maybe Chiming?
Hello. Okay. Point forms. Number one, please don't adopt a checklist approach. You have to understand, accept, and believe. Number two, I was a bit upset today because if you read Straits Times business section, back page, Sunil wrote a huge article about ESG got no impact. Actually, if you look at it carefully, it is not saying ESG got no impact, but you must have the right leadership when you adopt ESG. So don't take the burden onto yourself and yourself alone. Get your board involved. Help would always be there, whether it be in the form of fundings, subsidies, or templates to come, or introduction to partners that you can lean on. So I just stop here. we are not going to ask you to go on this journey without giving you some of the tools to help you along. So just be assured of that. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds really good with all this help. But actually, after 28 years on this journey, I have actually learned to be like, to be more zen now. Life is not just a matter of black or white. Some things that is so right that we have to save the planet. Right? Why didn't you do that? I used to get really, really upset when people turn me away. But now it's like, yeah, I mean, there are all sort of people in the world. I like green, but some you may like red, so that don't take it personal. So if I were running a charity, I would do my homework. Okay, whether the vision, the purpose that you are holding on so close to your heart need to be reviewed, or can you do it alone, or can you do it with there may be 10 other organizations doing the same thing? Maybe partnership is the right thing. Yeah, because fundraising is really difficult. Yeah, and every other day we receive letters. So, but instead of taking a machine gun type, just send out 100 letter, 100 email, and then you may just get one or two don't even respond to you, right? That is what students come to us. And we make it a point to try to reply. But and if I were doing it, I would just do my research. Like, for example, this company, very strong in youth engagement or environmental. No one company will do everything under the sun, right? So you have to really do your research. Take a more targeting approach. You write 20 letters that to the people, to the company who is aligned with your purpose, rather than you send 1,000 and get so upset. Nobody talks to me. So I think that is something that I would like to suggest from the receiving end. Don't just come to me like, wow, everything, I want to support the whole world. It's not possible because resources are limited, especially for listed company. We're only employee. We have to justify every dollar we spend, and we have to align because we have a strategic focus. Yeah. So go to their website. I'm sure every company would give you some hints that whether they support the old folks or support waste management or support youth engagement. Don't just like anyhow send out and then get disappointed. Mental health is very important. So keep zen. That's what I have been advising myself. If when people say no to you, doesn't mean personal, just revise your strategy. Maybe I can find someone who really share my vision, my view, then we become friends. And in fact, CDA has a lot of long-time partners for more than a decade or even 2 decades. So you just need to find the right match. It's like matchmaking, like marriage. It takes a long time for you to find the right, partner, right? So the same thing, corporate and NGO partnership. It also takes time to really review and find your right match. Yeah.
Thanks, Esther. With that, please join me in thanking our panel. I hope that the tips and useful information have been helpful to help you kickstart on this ESG journey. Thank you.